if you want to go play on a corner, a very non-busy, vacant area, you can go do that. Or you can go to the busiest street, which happens to be these platforms. And Tai explains it as like lottery balls. Every time he posts a TikTok, it's a lottery ball to potentially hit it big. We've never seen a platform like TikTok in the sense that you don't necessarily need to have a massive follower growth for you to reach a wide audience, especially the way the algorithm is driven. It's a bit democratic. You put together some like cool, funny, viral, remarkable. You want to create something that people see and they want to share with their friends immediately. Controlling the narrative is such an important and helpful tool to have as an artist, because otherwise you have other people writing your narrative.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business. The book, 3rd edition, is coming out later this year. Look out for that. Today, my guest is Ryan Chisholm. He is the GM of Work of Art Management, alongside Work of Art President David Massey, who is also the president and CEO of Arista Records. Ryan actually started his career after playing football, college football at UCLA. He started his career at Bill Silva Management, where he signed and developed Christina Perri. Together, they sold over 10 million singles, over 1 million albums, and 2 billion YouTube views with hits like Jar of Hearts, 1,000 Years, and Human. Ryan is also the manager of Mike Posner, the Grammy-nominated and hit producer and songwriter Mike Posner, an artist, of course, whose song I Took a Pill in Ibiza has amassed over 2.5 billion worldwide streams and went top 10 in 85 countries and was number 1 on Top 40 Radio for 2 weeks and made history as one of Spotify's top 10 most streamed songs of all time. Now, Ryan is managing Tai Verdes, and Tai is one of these breakout stars from TikTok. We spend most of this interview, this conversation, discussing Tai Verdes and telling the story of how he went from working a day job at Verizon to hundreds of millions of streams and a top 40 radio single, starting all on his own, and that entire journey. So if you want to hear all about his story and how he did it, and this is definitely going to be a very interesting interview for you. Ryan drops a lot of gems along the way, a lot of things that artists can learn from, and he gives some really great advice to artists on how to structure your careers in the new music business. And his answer of what he defines as making it was very encouraging and inspiring and enlightening. So I encourage you to listen all the way to the very end. As always, you can find us at Ari's Take on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. You can find me at Ari Herstand on Twitter and Instagram. Visit aristake.com to get on that email list. That's where you're going to find all the most important information. Get on that list. We send out notifications every time we release a podcast, and all the most important stuff in the industry that you need to know about, you're going to hear first from the email list. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just pause it right now. If you've been listening to this show for a little while and you haven't reviewed it, I would really appreciate if you could just pause it, leave a quick review, say some nice things on Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars on Spotify. That really helps. If you want us to keep the show going, that's one way. Just let us know that you dig it, and that would be really helpful. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode or any of the other ones. I read all of them, and I try to get back to as many as I can. So check it out and just follow the show, subscribe to it, like it, however you're listening right now. Just you want to get notified about it, follow, subscribe, like this show. All right, let's kick into the show. All right, Ryan Chisholm, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So where are you based? Where are you coming to me from right now?
I'm based in LA, born in San Francisco, but live in LA.
Right on. And I'm assuming there's stories behind the basketballs that are in plastic or glass containers sitting behind your head. For people that are just listening, they can't see it. There's a lot of basketball paraphernalia, and there's a couple photos. Tell me about this.
Yeah, well, you catch me in a time, I haven't been in this office in, no joke, 2 years, at least working out of it. I popped in, but it feels with a return to office. This is my office on the Sony lot in Culver City, and so all my memorabilia has been stashed here. But I grew up an athlete, just like so many kids. My goal was to play in the NBA, and
Nice.
Being a 6'1" white guy that can't jump that high, my limitations were a ton. So,
Sure.
yeah, I'm a big basketball fan. I played football at UCLA before transitioning into music,
Right
and
on.
yeah, so sports is important to me.
That's an interesting transition. Football at UCLA into music. What initially attracted you to music, and when did you kind of jump into that? Was it while you were in college, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, I mean, I had the benefit, and just I'm grateful that I was born into a music family. My
Mm,
dad worked as Carlos Santana's manager. He's worked with
nice.
Santana for 25 years. My mom was like the head accountant for the Warfield and the Fillmore. Both of them at one point worked for Bill Graham Presents. So
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like I was kind of part of Bay Area music royalty. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was all around me. But I knew I couldn't play
Cool.
anything. I didn't play an instrument or anything. I
Yeah.
appreciated the business side, and for me, it
Nice.
was about playing basketball or being on the field.
Nice. Nice. The family business. Cool. So, um, so you're currently at Work of Art, and Work of Art management publishing company. Tell me about this, because I mean, you wear many hats, and as I was reading your bio and mentioning it before the show during the intro, you do a lot. But I want to start with Work of Art, and then I want to branch out to all the other things that you do, because I think there's some interesting stories there. First off, just tell me what Work of Art is, and how long you've been working there and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm grateful to have partnered with David Massey,
Mm-hmm.
who oversees Arista and Work of Art management and pub. So about 4 years ago, David and I were having dinner, and him and I had a great relationship because I've managed Mike Posner for the past 6-7 years,
Mm-hmm.
and when he was running Island, Mike was signed there, and together we had the success of I Took a Pill in Ibiza, and kind of resurrected Mike back to superstardom and as one of the biggest
Mm-hmm.
records of 2016. And
Sure.
David was a massive advocate for Mike at that time.
Cool.
So him and I had a great relationship. We're having dinner, and he mentioned an opportunity, and it really, the dinner was to tell me like, hey, I don't think I'm going to be working with Mike in this capacity. And I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, I want to have a management company, a publishing company, and
Mm.
a record label. And I said, okay, cool. Who's going to run the management company? He's like, I don't know yet. I said, well, why don't I do that? We'll bring Mike over and we can build from there. And
Nice.
that was kind of the foundation of Work of Art on the management side. And Work of Art
Mm-hmm.
publishing is run by Cleo Massey, who's one of the best publishers in the game, and obviously Eris is run by David.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gives us the opportunity to work with artists in any capacity where it makes sense. So having the
Mm-hmm.
label management and pub, it's not often that they'll. I don't think actually there's any instance where all three of them, management, label, and pub, are under one
Sure.
roof. But there's a few instances where it makes sense, and as long as it's the best deal for the artist. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some artists are label and pub, some artists are management and label.
Mm-hmm.
In the case for Tai and Mike, so it works well.
Yeah, yeah, Tai Verdes. Yeah, and we're going to talk about him in a second. Yeah, we had JP Sax manager Seth Callan on the show, and JP and I go back to the Hotel Cafe singer-songwriter nights, and I know that he's a Work of Art publishing client, but also with Arista. And I remember I was actually at the airport at LAX. Gosh, this must have been probably 2019, heading to South by. So this must have been like March 2019. And I ran into JP. We're both on our way to South by, and he had the label offers on the table, and he was telling me about deciding which label offer and which ones he was thinking about and what he was going to take. And of course, Arista was one of them on the table. And of course, he ended up going with Arista, which was clearly the right call, because then he blew up, and If the World Was Ending, of course, took off and all of that. When Work of Art, I mean, were you kind of part of? I know you're part of Work of Art, but on the publishing side, because he's just kind of a publishing client there, and then he's on the label side with Arista and David. How closely does everybody work on each other's projects? Do you cross over to publishing or with the artists on Arista, or are you primarily focused on management?
Primarily focused on management.
Cool.
I think with Cleo running the publishing company and David obviously running the label, it makes it easy for label and publishing to work really well. And I think, it was, very apparent that JP was an incredible songwriter, which is what gravitated David and Cleo both to JP at an early stage, far before the world was ending. And, I think the reason it made sense for him to be aligned with both companies is because of that, because he's such a great songwriter. And, at the end of the day, that's what Cleo and David probably are best at, is like real artists, songwriting, their lyric melody, they're real song people. So, and JP checks all those boxes. He's, similar to Mike Posner in that way.
Yep, definitely. So let's talk Tai Verdes, because this is as kind of TikTok artist success stories go. He's one of the poster children of this era. And I heard his interview on Switched on Pop, which was very intriguing to me, because Tai doesn't follow necessarily the traditional trajectory of an artist. He wasn't really in bands early on in high school. He wasn't doing kind of the music thing, grinding it out like a lot of people, but decided he kind of wanted to do the artist thing, and almost from my perspective, and then please correct the record or explain to me from your perspective, and when you came into the picture, it almost seemed like kind of like how Lil Nas X went about getting the start, is he was interested in more of seeing the kind of creating the memes and seeing what would catch on TikTok. I mean, he's extremely active on TikTok, and then he was testing out a lot of things, and sure enough, one of the songs he was debating releasing, Stuck in the Middle, when he posted, like, I'll release it if I get 1,000 likes, and that exploded, and that everything kind of came after that. So I'm curious, when did you come into the picture, and then what's the story like from your perspective on Tai Verdes?
Yeah, I feel like I came into the picture pretty early, but it was, I think a week or two after Stuck in the Middle came out. But,
oh, wow.
Just to give some background on Tai, I mean, I think what's allowed for him to be successful is his drive. Like I typically, explain it as like Tai trains for music the way that an Olympic athlete trains for the Olympics. Like, wow. If he's awake, he's got, Bose headphones on, and he's listening to mixes or demos and giving notes and texting and calling with producers and writers. And, when him and I met, he was working at Verizon, and he was scouring the internet, whether that's YouTube or BeatStars, for instrumentals until 4 a.m. and writing the track. And that's how Stuck in the Middle came. Wow. That was a track which, when you go back and listen to it now, it sounds like it was created in the room, but no, that was done with a gentleman named Pacom, who's an amazing producer based in France. Wow. And that was just done remote. But it's, I think for Tai, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, just to touch on that, because that's really interesting. How did Tai link up with this producer from France to create Stuck in the Middle, or was this a beat that he found, this instrumental, and asked to use it? Yeah,
just a beat.
That was it.
He had looked up, beats, and again, it was one of those things that found at like 3 or 4 a.m. and got in touch, licensed the beat, and then when him and I connected, we did the deal proper, make sure that Red Mosque is the producer's production moniker, got in touch, made sure the deal was properly papered, and off to the races. Because I think that's another big issue is artists sometimes are using tracks they don't necessarily have the full rights to use. You have it up to a certain amount of streams or whatnot, and that can get messy. So obviously we wanted to make sure the business was sound.
I mean, that's a very important point that I think a lot of artists starting off don't really realize. I mean, the fact that Lil Nas X the first Old Town Road had a 9 Inch Nails sample in there. I mean, there was no kind of permissions given. I think he bought that beat or thought he was buying it or something. And I'm sure it was a permissions nightmare that his label eventually worked out. But that's a perfect example. I mean, did you run into any of that with this instrumental, that you had any rights that you had to clear with the producer? Or did he license it to any other artists or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it did, based on the fact that so there's probably earlier versions, and truthfully, there's nothing you can do about that in the period that we're living in,
Sure.
of BeatStars kind of YouTube beat world where, these guys are doing non-exclusive beats. So what we do is when we papered it, we do a buyout. So in the future, we have exclusivity, but technically if you licensed it prior to Stuck in the Middle, that's fair game to a certain point. So.
I want to hunt down those releases that use the same instrumental as Stuck in the Middle. Have you heard them?
No, but I think at the end of the day, like it's just a popularity thing, right? So at this point, if somebody heard it, they would be like, "Oh, that's the Tai Verdes Stuck in the Middle track." Like,
truth.
So once you get to that point, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of a remix or almost like a mixtape song at that point.
So you came in at a really interesting time in Tai's career. He still has a day job. I watched the TikTok of him live quitting Verizon because Stuck in the Middle took off. I recommend everybody watching that. It's amazing and hilarious. What were the initial conversations that you had with him when you first met and decided to create this partnership together?
Yeah, I mean, there was multiple conversations. I think, you have to remember this was, basically June, July of 2020. And so we're 4 months into the pandemic.
Wow.
We're all kind of in this uncharted territory. We're in and out of lockdowns. He's working at a Verizon store, which was, allowed to remain open. So the good thing is he stayed employed. He could continue to pay his rent, but he was in an empty store most of the time. Which if you go back and look at his TikToks, like it allowed him the opportunity to make a ton of content because he was alone in the store. But there were countless calls, with label presidents where he's behind the desk and a customer would come in and the screen would just go dark because he'd have to like throw the phone into the drawer, and then we'd explain it because it would happen so often that we'd be like, "Hey, sorry, a customer came in, like he'll be right back," or he's like running to his car to do calls with poor Wi-Fi. It was just one of those things that consistently happened, and people understood because we were all in this kind of new normal. And he was by himself. Like he didn't have another coworker there most of the time. Like he managed the store, and I think the company was trying to keep overhead low, and so there wasn't a reason to have 2 employees because there was rarely anybody coming in. So it was an interesting time for sure.
So when you guys started talking, what was kind of the trajectory and what were the plans that you set in place, and what were some of the goals early on that you guys discussed?
Yeah, when we first connected, I'd want to say like there's maybe 200 creations on the sound, if that, right? And each day, looking at Spotify for artists, Apple for artists, like you would just see the song going up and up. And at that point, he only had one song out under the Tai Verdes name, which was Stuck in the Middle. And so every day we'd go up and up and up. And, we were obviously reaching out to all the DSPs and, trying to educate. But again, like this is during a TikTok time where like there was a new song or a new sound or a new dance happening once a week. And the best thing that happened to us was slow and steady success and growth. When I remember July 5th, I was in Arizona with family for the holiday, and Tai sent a text, and it was Stuck in the Middle, #1 on the viral chart. And I thought it was Photoshopped. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Cause like we went from like not even on the chart to #1. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. Like we should post it just for fun. And then I realized, oh, this is real. And
we're talking the Spotify viral charts or the TikTok viral?
Yeah, Spotify viral charts. So,
wow.
Which meant something. And so, at that time I had been in conversation with a number of labels. And so I'm pulled over along the side of the road of the 5 and I'm just sending texts like, hey, you see this? You see it? Because you got to take advantage of the moment. I don't know. Maybe the chart updates. I know it updates once a day, but like, we might not be number 1 tomorrow. So I'm going to take advantage of it in the moment and make sure everybody knows about it today.
There you go.
And so we did that. And, I think we had a number of major label offers on the table, and, none of them were what we wanted. And what I told Ty was like, I want this deal to be a deal where you're able to retain ownership of your masters. I'd love to be in a position where we're putting enough money in your pocket that you're able to not think about, having to work a job for 2 full years, because it takes a while to build a career.
Yep.
And that was basically the benchmark, was ownership. And again, it wasn't about like, hey, let's get the biggest deal, because I think there's a downside to that as well. It was, let's just make it so that you can quit. And so he didn't quit right away. We invested my own money into it to do music videos and advertising and, influencer content and whatnot, but I knew it was going to come, because we had some great deals on the table, but nothing exactly what we wanted. And, again, as a manager, and like, this speaks more to the setup that we have. Like, I didn't go to Arista first, even though it was because of my Arista role that it was an Arista A&R meeting where I was told about Tai. But it was early. It didn't make sense for the label. Arista is a new label, and there was a ton of development that happened. So we made the decision on the call for me to speak to him as a manager, because he didn't have a manager at the time. And that's how the relationship came about.
Continue. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. There's a few things that you mentioned in there that I want to touch on. And then I want to get to the point of deciding why you went with them. But the influencer deals that you mentioned, now we had Griffin Hatterall, who runs Vertical influencer marketing agency, on the show. We also had Austin Georges, who is part of Flight House, another kind of TikTok influencer marketing agency. When you mentioned influencer deals, did you engage one of these or any influencer marketing company to kind of help give the song a boost on TikTok to keep momentum going?
We tried that route. It didn't exactly work, because also we didn't have, this was my pocketbook. This wasn't, record label pocketbook. Yep. So what we were doing is taking more of a Gary Vee mentality. And so I co-managed Tai with my partner, Brandon Epstein. And collectively, between Tai, myself, Brandon, and a few others on our team, we were just reaching out to influencers directly, DMing them, creating spreadsheets and basically just tracking like, hey, you used a song, Harry Styles, Watermelon Sugar, like you might like this new artist pop in, or you use Surfaces, Sunday Best, like, check out this kid Tai. And, we were able to kind of get some things going on that. There was some like young college kids that were down to help and had some influencer relationships,
Nice.
We'd float them a little bit, but we were able to get a lot for a little at that time. Right. Yeah. And now I think, the prices have gone up for a lot of these people,
sure,
warranted or unwarranted. I don't know, but,
we'll see,
again, when we went, I think we were at 400 creations or something like that when we went number 1 on the viral charts. So
wow.
The thing is, there was never the sound didn't go viral initially. There wasn't a specific video that did, millions and millions of views. It was consistency. And you look at Tai used TikTok almost as a reality television show. Like you can go back and watch it in chronological order. You can hear him playing the song in his radio for the first time in his car. You can see him shooting the artwork on TikTok. You can see, him pulling up Spotify for artists and it being heavily male skewed and telling his dude fans to go send it to the girls, and then seeing, the follow up to now it's like heavily female. Like he was doing things that I hadn't seen other artists do. And I think that's why it works so well. And I think, again, we're locked in the house for basically a year plus, right? And his first show ever is Lollapalooza in front of 35,000 people.
Wow.
And what we learned, Brandon, myself, and Tai, then was like, this dude's face is very recognizable because we're on a golf cart going from stage to stage. And people are just like, Tai, because everybody's been on TikTok, So like, they've seen his videos, they've seen him, and like so often you're chasing the song and trying to connect artists to the song, and it was almost like we had him. He's a very good looking dude. He's iconic looking in terms of his hair. He's got dope style. Like he's approachable. He has all these things going for him. He has like this confidence, but not cocky attitude. And people like loved the fact that they saw him from Verizon and like they were rooting for him every step of the way.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like what movies are made of, right? Like, it's a bit of a storybook ending that continues to grow, which we're excited about.
I mean, you make a great point. He used his TikTok almost like a reality TV show, and it was more about the consistency. I mean, I did go back and watch a bunch of these, and I mean, he must have soundtracked his own TikTok videos, maybe 30, 40, 50 of them with Stuck in the Middle.
Oh, it's more. I mean, we counted it at some point. Like, I want to say it might have been in the hundreds. Like, and we now track now new songs, right? Like that we're teasing it just to see how they do. And you know, he's going to do what he does. He doesn't do anything based on data. You know, there's instances where it's happened for us. Like the first time he teased A-OK on TikTok, like I think it was like 40 million views or something insane, you know, and led to 100,000 pre-saves. You know, when we didn't plan for Last Day on Earth to come out. That song he teased on December 26th, and it ended up doing, you know, millions basically overnight. And so we're like, okay, this song is raising its hand, but like, we're not living and dying by TikTok. Like we have a song that comes out tonight, you know, it's done decent on our teases, but it wasn't like everything we're going to put out. Cause at the end of the day, he's an artist and he has a story to tell, and he has, you know, he's trying to lay this out. The other thing about Tai is Tai knows album 1 is TV. He knows album 2 is HGTV. He knows what album 3 is and album 4. He knows the colors. He knows the content. He knows the storyline. Like nobody has a more fleshed out kind of vision for their career than him as a new artist. And I think that's why it's so easy, because we're not chasing a song. We do not live or break or die by one song. He's created so much music that it's like, if this one happens, cool. If it doesn't, we got the next one in the chamber. You know, he's writing and directing almost every single music video. We have a fun video coming out tonight that, you know, features him as like a star basketball player. And, you know, we share that background. Like he's, you know, his goal was also to play in the NBA. He's 6'7", like it's extremely athletic. And, you know, if it wasn't for injury, you know, he'd probably be playing at the next level. So,
man, I mean, what you just explained. It seems to me, I mean, he's a true artist. I mean, he has the vision. He has a strong identity of himself, which I think a lot of younger artists struggle with. And that's something that, to his credit, he's been able to, create this audience who is engaged with him because he has a strong sense of self and because he has this vision, which is so crucial for a lot of artists. Because if you, like you said, I mean, that's great that you're not putting all your eggs in the TikTok basket. I mean, if you live by TikTok, you die by TikTok, live by the hit, die by the hit. And by kind of growing it slower, but also, laying that groundwork, that's what's going to keep the audience with you for a long time. So you touched on it, but I want to just bring it back a little bit. You mentioned his tease for A-OK. I mean, this is him in his car saying, "I want you to feel 2% better about your day when you hear this," and it's just him singing along to the masters that he has. And yeah, that video got 40 million views, and a bunch of, I think now it's at about a million creations of people have made their own videos to the sound of A-OK. Was this after the deal, or did that help you leverage, bring leverage to the table with the labels to actually get the deal that you wanted, where you were able to retain ownership of the masters and a nice advance to enable him to live for 2 years?
Yeah, it was after, but I think they knew what was kind of cooking for Tai. And, I think, again, that's the benefit of having a management label publishing company. Like we're only going to do the best deal possible for the artist. And at the same time, like if RCA would have given us a similar deal, or like this was not completely decided by any means. Like, oh, because we're part of Arista, and we share the same roof, that like it's going to go here. Like I was just as happy to, to do a deal with Tunji or to do a deal with Aaron Bayshuk. Like we had a number of partners that were extremely passionate. It just didn't line up based on, their release schedule. And David and the Arista team, Matt Dardwini, Zeke Silvera, Ryan Faust, those guys just were so passionate and gave him a deal that like, I can look him in the eyes in 5 years and be like, that was the best deal on the table. Like, and that's constantly what, whether it's I'm talking to Mike Posner or Tai Verdes or Claire Rosenkrantz, like, we are, that's kind of how we judge any long-term serious deal. It's like, can I look at you in 5 years and be like, yeah, that was the best deal to do at the time? Because you can't be in the moment, you can't chase the check, and you have to be sound in the sense of like betting on yourself, but also making sure that like, you're taking care of your needs in the current moment. So there's a bit of balance to be done, and numerous conversations. And, Brandon Epstein from our team is like so diligent and detail oriented, and him and I look at things a bit differently. And we probably speak 20 times a day, and we're constantly like debating, and devil's advocating conversations and decisions, and whether that's a tour or a deal or a brand sponsorship or whatever it may be. I have an incredible sounding board around us, and then we take that feedback to Ty, and Ty's heavily involved. All of our artists are very business savvy. They understand, and they educate themselves to a pretty detailed degree of the ins and outs of the music industry, which I think is also just a product of the times. I think artists are far more aware today of the deals that they're entering than they were probably 20 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, people are sharing that information a lot more open. I mean, we had Ricky Montgomery on the show, similarly, who had some songs explode on TikTok, and he was able to get into a major label bidding war and leverage that into retaining his masters. Actually doing a 50-50 split with Warner, and just a licensing deal with a nice advance. In terms of the kinds of deals that you're seeing these days, I mean, that was still relatively early in this new era where in kind of the TikTok era, this is like what, mid 2020 or so, then this is all happening. Are you seeing deals like where you're able to retain the ownership of your masters more and more? I mean, did you see these kinds of deals even 5 years ago, or did you just know that this is where the tides were turning and you could even ask for something like that? Because I don't think a lot of artists or managers even knew that was even possible to do.
So before being at Work of Art and Arista, I was at Nettwerk Music Group, Canadian-based independent record label, management company, publishing company. So I basically was at a company that was similar in the sense of like having that three-pronged approach, but being an independent. And I think the Strength Network has done an incredible job over the past 30 plus years of being a label. And, I was working on the label side as well as a management company, and I knew, we were going after Rainbow Kitten Surprise. And I remember when I saw Elektra out there, and I was like, man, if like the majors are going after these things and being competitive, and I know, I'm not going to say exactly what the terms were, but they were, it was the first time I saw a major do a very aggressive deal. And I remember going to Terry and be like, if the majors are doing these deals, like it's challenging for independents to compete at that level, at least for the things that are, statistically competitive. Like, I think what Nettwerk's doing a great job of right now is finding things before anybody else knows about it. And that's hard because all the majors have similar research tools. But, they're carving out a niche of, artists and genres that, have similar affinities, and it's very fruitful. Terry McBride is probably one of the smartest guys in the music business. I'm just going to name check that real quick.
Nice. Cool. So. Wow. I mean, that's really interesting. The fact that, I mean, you saw that from that perspective. I mean, when I heard that the majors were offering these kinds of deals. I mean, that was mind-blowing to me. I didn't realize that this was actually happening. But they do need to stay competitive. I mean, they're losing market share year over year. They're at 65% market share right now. The indies, the labels, and the self-release artists are at the 35%, and they're gaining on them. And so the majors do need to stay competitive because artists can self-release their music. Because in 2021, the numbers came out, self-release artists made over $1.5 billion just releasing their own music. And so the labels need to bring something to the table other than just a big paycheck, especially because there are so many resources, just like you said, where the artists are educating themselves these days, and they know what kinds of deals are out there and what they can take. So in terms of Tai, he has this album out. TV came out last year, 2021. I see that there's touring now is a big part of the operation. Tell me about kind of, what was it like for him to never perform a gig and perform a first gig at Lollapalooza in front of 35,000 people and now, go on a full-fledged tour, and how you kind of prepare someone for that, and what was that all like?
Yeah, I'll give most of that credit to my partner, Brendan. Brendan, runs most of the touring operation for our artists. But, we just kind of surrounded him with the best in the business. So Drew Taubenfeld and Kevin Cofield are our musical directors, and basically, helped to pull together our band. And, we've gone through a few different iterations, but feel like we have some of the strongest players there are. And at the end of the day, I don't know, Ty's a phenomenon, man. He's had been to very few shows prior to playing himself, and he's just natural. He just does all the things on stage that you would imagine somebody with 10 years of experience would do. And
wow.
It's amazing, but it takes a village, right? So we have a great vocal coach in Valerie Morehouse. We have our great musical directors. We have an incredible band. We have, incredible crew. We basically put all the necessary pieces around him to, ensure. And our booking agent, Wasserman, Zach Bluestone, Steph Miles, who does our branding, everybody's just been operating at treating him as a top tier artist, which he has become really quickly, from a revenue standpoint. He's selling out tours. He's doing brand deals with some of the best brands in the world. The fact that this kid was eating Chipotle every day for 6 months, and now Chipotle sponsored his last US tour. That's incredible.
That's
and
amazing.
We got a lot more going on, and between that and Coke and Bose and Verizon, and we have a lot of fun stuff in store for the upcoming year and some, and as mentioned, there will be a new album this year. We're already on, basically as of tonight, we'll have 3 songs out from the new project.
Nice.
At some point he's going to need a break. I've never seen somebody work harder. I've never seen somebody have so little time off. Wow. But again, even if we try to build in time in his calendar off, he's gonna be on that phone. He's gonna be writing. He's gonna be calling producers. Cool. He doesn't know how to turn it off yet. So that'll come soon.
That's great. So there's a lot of independent musicians listening right now, and speak to them as in, what are your recommendations to artists these days where maybe they're not finding the traction right now? They, maybe they are on the other end of the spectrum where they've played a lot of shows, but they're not really resonating on the internet or on TikTok. What are your recommendations to artists to kind of move it to that next level, and what would you recommend artists these days focus on?
Yeah, I think whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, you got to focus on digital, at least as of right now. Things could shift, and as the world continues to open up, artists can build DIY in terms of playing live and getting people out to shows, and 50 fans turns into 150 fans, and everybody starts telling 2 or 3 friends. And obviously that's the old school way of going about it. But I think right now, you have to put your stuff online. You have to create your brand. You have to get, music on these platforms, whether it's Reels or Snapchat or TikTok. Like, I gave somebody the analogy recently. It's like, yeah, if you want to go play on a corner, a very like non-busy, vacant area, you can go do that. Or you can go to the busiest street, which happens to be these platforms, like, and Tai explains it as like lottery balls. Every time he posts a TikTok, it's a lottery ball to, potentially hit it big. And, I think we've never seen a platform like TikTok in the sense that you don't necessarily need to have a massive follower growth for you to reach a wide audience. And so why not, and I don't think there's so many different ways to utilize a platform like TikTok and or Reels or Snapchat and, YouTube Shorts. And but TikTok, I think, especially the way the algorithm is driven, like you don't, it's a bit democratic. You put together some like cool, funny, viral, remarkable, I think remarkable is used sometimes in the right, that's what you want. You need engagement, right? So you create some piece of content and really it's driven by share. So you want to create something that people see and they want to share with their friends immediately. You create something like that. And that's why, hey, I want this to make you feel 2% better. I don't think he realized how genius that was, at the time, but it's like, if he would have said 10%, like people probably would have just been like, nah, I don't, but like 2% is a pretty low bar, right? But he knows that, like, that's the thing about Tai. And I don't tell him this stuff because his head's already big enough, but that was like an incredibly genius move. And he's constantly thinking about those things. Anytime he gives an interview, like he has a line ready to go that like he's going to write your headline. Nice. And I think controlling the narrative is such an important and helpful tool to have as an artist because otherwise you have other people writing your narrative.
Such a great point. So that's, very helpful and very useful. I'm curious, you mentioned Snapchat. Is Snapchat coming back? What are you seeing these days on Snapchat, and how are you using Snapchat, and how are you telling your artists to focus on it? Yeah,
I think the kids use Snap, so much so, right? Like it's still kind of a private application case, but it's like we have the benefit of having relationships to try to get the sound, in a place that can be used and make it ubiquitous in a community. But I would Snapchat is definitely a platform. For Last Day on Earth, we didn't necessarily have insane momentum coming from TikTok, but we did in Snapchat, and it was in territories of like India, for example. And so I think TikTok's not the only game in town. It's probably one of the biggest, but I think it's important. You never know, like we see a pretty consistent trend that if like something does well on TikTok, it's also going to do well on Reels. So it's probably more just a byproduct of good content that's shareable.
That makes sense. Everyone's trying to compete with TikTok, right? Snapchat Spotlight, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. They see what's working and what people are responding to, so that makes sense. And the nice thing is if it works, you create the one video, you can kind of reuse it to all the platforms. If it's resonating and working, it's working. Amazing, Ryan. This has been so helpful, and you dropped so many gems, and it was really great hearing the story and how you developed Tai and all of this. I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on the show. What does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
I don't know if I have, and I think that's that's the athletic background for me.
Sure.
Is like there's a bit, I talk about this with Mike Posner constantly, who's probably one of the biggest blessings of a client to have because he's so focused on mental health, physical health, like being present in the moment, and you do have to celebrate the victories because at the end of the day, like it's not the destination. It's the experience getting there. So we, try to take the moments to be grateful for what's happening, pinch ourselves. I remember like when Tai played Lala, in front of 35,000 people, I was looking at Brandon crying. Like, it's like, what, like we've been doing this for like, and I'm a kind of like a grizzly bear kind of, non-emotional person. Like,
sure.
But that's what you do it for. And so I say, I think making it is relative. I think, we're fortunate to wake up and not have a regular 9 to 5. And, it allows for me to take care of my family. And, as long as I continue to do this, like I've made it, but at the same time, like I'm competitive. I want to have number ones. I want to have artists playing arenas and stadiums. And so until we're there, I don't feel like we've quite made it. But I'm fortunate to have, to be able to do it another day.
That's great. Always practicing gratitude. Ryan Chisholm, thank you so much.
Likewise, Aaron. Thanks for having me.